Welcome, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the life of an incredible guy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar.
Ooh, yes.
He was this amazing 19th century Indian scholar and social reformer. And, you might be thinking another historical figure, but trust me,
Right.
this one's really special. We'll be using the life of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar to kind of explore his story
Okay.
and see how he managed to transform India using education and this focus on social justice.
It's a great book. It really captures the essence of the man and his times.
Yeah, and if you've ever wondered, how just one person can make a real difference?
Mm-hmm.
This is the deep dive for you.
It's really fascinating how Vidyasagar's own personal journey kind of mirrors India's social evolution back then.
Totally. I've heard about his childhood. It sounds like something out of born in a small village
Right.
to a family that really struggled financially.
It wasn't easy for them.
But his mother, she was a huge believer in education.
She was a force to be reckoned with, for sure. The book talks about how young Ishwar would study under street lamps because they couldn't afford an oil lamp at home.
Wow, that's dedication. I can't even imagine trying to focus on my studies with just street light.
It speaks volumes about his commitment to learning, even as a child.
Yeah, even at such a young age. And speaking of commitment, that journey he made to Kolkata,
Oh, yes.
incredible.
That's a story in itself. At 9 years old, he walked over 60 miles to Kolkata
Way.
to attend Sanskrit college.
60 miles.
And remember, this was the early 1800s. No paved roads, no comfy shoes.
Wow, that just blows my mind. I mean, can you imagine making that trek today?
Not a chance.
It really shows his unwavering drive to learn. So he arrives at this prestigious Sanskrit college in a bustling city. What was that experience like for him?
Well, Sanskrit College was the place to be for scholarship in 19th century India.
Other dad?
Known for its rigorous curriculum and this emphasis on traditional Hindu learning.
Yeah,
And Vidyasagar, he thrived there,
I can imagine.
earning the title Vidyasagar, meaning ocean of knowledge.
Ocean of Knowledge. That's like a superhero name,
Right.
and he definitely lived up to it. But what's so remarkable is that he didn't just hoard this knowledge. He used it to actually champion social change,
He did.
particularly for women's rights in 19th century India.
A time of significant social rigidity.
That's what sets him apart.
Absolutely. He saw a society that was burdened by these outdated practices and inequalities, and he truly believed that education could be the key to unlocking progress.
And one of the most impactful examples of this is his fight for widow remarriage.
Right. Absolutely. This was a time when widows in India faced incredible hardships,
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
often ostracized and condemned to a life of poverty and isolation.
It's just unimaginable. So tell me a little bit about that. What was the context back then?
Well, widows were often seen as burdens on their families,
Oh, wow.
and the prevailing social norms prohibited them from remarrying. It was a deeply ingrained belief system, and Vidyasagar, he recognized the injustice of this
Good for him.
and dedicated himself to changing these deeply rooted norms.
I'm guessing this wasn't an easy battle to fight.
Not at all. It was a fundamental shift
Yeah.
in how society viewed women and their rights.
So how did he even begin to tackle this?
He faced immense opposition,
Oh,
not just from conservative elements of society,
Right.
but even from some within his own community.
Really?
They saw his ideas as radical
Yeah,
and a threat to the established order.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
It must have taken incredible courage to challenge those beliefs so directly.
He was a fearless advocate for what he believed in.
So how did he make headway against such resistance? Was it all just, angry letters or something?
He was a master communicator and strategist.
Okay.
He wrote extensively published articles, gave speeches, and debated with religious leaders and scholars,
Wow.
all to sway public opinion.
So he was engaging in public discourse.
Precisely. He argued that the ancient Hindu scriptures didn't actually prohibit widow remarriage.
That's smart. Using their own beliefs to advocate for change.
It was a brilliant tactic.
And ultimately, these efforts led to the passage of the Widow Remarriage Act in 1856.
It was a monumental victory.
Huge. A landmark moment.
Absolutely. Not just for women's rights in India,
Yeah.
but for social reform movements around the world. It proved that even deeply entrenched societal norms could be challenged and overturned.
What an incredible achievement. And so inspiring to think about the ripple effects of his work.
It's a testament to the power of one person's vision and dedication.
He really set a precedent for challenging injustice and advocating for equality. But his reform work didn't stop there. He was also deeply passionate about education,
For everyone.
especially for girls.
He believed that educating women was crucial for the progress of society as a whole.
And this was a time when girls' education was largely neglected.
Right. It was a constant battle against tradition and prejudice.
So he was putting his beliefs into action, not just talking about them.
He was a man of action.
That's really impressive.
Thank you.
He understood that real change requires concrete steps
Yes.
and creating opportunities for those who have been marginalized.
He was all about empowering the disempowered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And his efforts extended beyond just creating schools.
They did.
He revolutionized the way education was delivered at Sanskrit College.
He shook things up a bit.
Right. He was the principal there at one point, wasn't he?
He was. What kind of changes did he implement?
I imagine it must have been a pretty traditional institution at that time.
Oh, it was steeped in tradition.
Yeah.
But Vidyasagar, he recognized that in a rapidly changing world,
Right.
students needed a broader range of knowledge and skills.
Interesting. So what did he do?
He introduced English and science
Really?
into the curriculum alongside the traditional Sanskrit studies.
Wow. That's fascinating. So he was trying to bridge the gap
He was.
between tradition and modernity, equipping students to thrive in a world that was increasingly influenced by Western ideas.
And technology.
That's a great way to put it. He wasn't about discarding the old ways altogether,
No, not at all.
but rather integrating them with new perspectives and knowledge.
Exactly.
And this approach extended to his work on the Bengali language itself.
Oh, absolutely.
At that time, Bengali prose was quite complex
It was
and difficult for the average person to understand.
not very user-friendly for everyday communication or learning.
Not quite. So Vidyasagar, he saw this as a barrier to literacy
He did.
and knowledge sharing. He believed that language should be accessible to everyone.
To everyone, not just the elite.
So he set about simplifying Bengali prose,
He did.
making it clearer and more straightforward.
Like democratizing language itself.
That's a great way to put it. And his textbook, Barna Pariche,
Yes.
was a key part of this effort, right?
It was.
I've heard it was incredibly popular and influential.
Absolutely. Barna Pariche, which means Introduction to the Alphabet,
Okay.
was groundbreaking.
How so?
It presented the Bengali alphabet and basic grammar in a way that was easy for children and adults to grasp.
So he really understood that learning should be engaging
He did.
and not just rote memorization.
It's amazing how one person's passion for language can have such a profound impact.
It's true. It's like he opened up a whole new world of possibilities for Bengalis.
He did, both in terms of literacy and creative expression.
His impact was enormous.
It was. His simplified prose became the standard for Bengali writing,
Wow.
influencing literature journalism and education.
Incredible. So he essentially laid the foundation for modern Bengali as we know it today.
He did, but, for all his accomplishments, he was known for his humility.
Really? It seems like someone who achieved so much would have a bit of an ego.
It's true. But the biography talks about how, despite his fame and influence, he lived a simple life,
Interesting.
shunning extravagance and always putting the needs of others before his own.
Wow.
He was known for his generosity, often giving away most of his earnings to the poor and those in need.
It's a powerful reminder that true greatness isn't measured by wealth or status, but by the impact we have on the lives of others.
Exactly. He used his position and influence to uplift those around him.
He wasn't content with just achieving personal success. He wanted to see his entire community benefit.
From progress and enlightenment.
And this brings us to a more complex aspect of his life. While he achieved so much, he also faced moments of disillusionment.
He did.
I can imagine. Fighting for social change is exhausting work,
It is.
especially when you're challenging deeply ingrained beliefs and practices.
It takes a toll.
So did this disillusionment have anything to do with his reform efforts?
It seems so. As he grew older, he became increasingly frustrated with the slow pace of social change and the resistance he continued to encounter.
It's understandable.
He had hoped his efforts would lead to more rapid progress.
I bet.
But the reality is transforming society takes time,
It does.
patience, and persistence.
It makes you wonder if in his later years he questioned whether he had made a real difference after all.
It's a thought that probably crossed his mind.
It's a reminder that even the most dedicated reformers face setbacks.
And moments of doubt.
So how did he cope with these feelings? Did he just give up on everything?
No, he didn't give up. But he did retreat from public life to a certain extent.
Okay.
He spent his later years living a simple life, focusing on helping the poor and engaging in philanthropic activities.
That's nice.
He even founded a school for the children of sex workers,
Really?
a group often marginalized and ostracized by society.
It's interesting that even in his disillusionment, he didn't abandon his commitment to social justice.
No, he didn't. It seems like he shifted his focus from large-scale reform efforts to more direct personal acts of service.
Exactly. He continued to make a difference in his own way.
He did, even if it wasn't on the grand stage of politics and legislation.
Right. It's a testament to his enduring compassion and his belief in the power of individual action.
To create positive change.
It makes me think that maybe we don't always need to see immediate sweeping changes to feel like we're making a difference. Sometimes those small, consistent acts of kindness and service can have a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
That we may not even realize.
That's a powerful insight. It brings us to a fundamental question.
Okay.
What is Vidyasagar's lasting legacy?
Right. How should we remember him today? It's clear that his impact extends far beyond the specific reforms he championed.
It does.
I think it's more than just the Widow Remarriage Act.
More than that.
Or his work on the Bengali language.
It's deeper.
It's about the values he embodied.
Yes.
Courage, compassion, perseverance, and an unwavering belief in the power of education to transform lives.
You said it perfectly.
He showed us that one person can indeed make a difference, no matter how challenging the circumstances.
No matter how difficult the path.
His life is a call to action.
It is.
An invitation to each of us to find our own ways to contribute.
To a more just and equitable world.
You know, it's easy to get caught up into the details of his life.
Yes.
But what strikes me most is his unwavering belief in human potential.
That's beautiful.
He saw the good in everyone, even those society had cast aside.
He did.
He believed that everyone deserved the opportunity to learn and grow.
Regardless of their background or circumstances.
That's a beautiful observation. And it's a message that resonates deeply in today's world.
It does.
Where inequalities and injustices still persist.
They do.
He reminds us that we all have a role to play.
I do.
In creating a more inclusive and compassionate society.
He's passing the torch to us.
It's true. Challenging us to carry on his legacy of social change.
It's a challenge worth accepting.
But it also makes you wonder, what were some of the challenges he faced along the way?
It's a good question.
Were there any unintended consequences of his reforms?
That's a great question. And it's important to acknowledge that even the most well-intentioned reforms can have unforeseen consequences.
That's true.
For example, while the Widow Remarriage Act was a landmark achievement, it didn't completely eradicate the social stigma associated with widow remarriage. Right. Many widows still face discrimination and ostracism.
Even after the law was passed.
Even after. It makes you realize that changing laws is just one step in a much longer journey towards social change.
You're right.
It takes time to shift attitudes and behaviors.
It does.
And there will always be resistance to change.
Especially when it comes to deeply held beliefs.
Absolutely. And sometimes the very act of challenging traditional norms can create backlash and unintended consequences.
Interesting.
It's a reminder that social change is complex and messy.
Yeah.
And there are rarely easy solutions.
So while we celebrate Vidyasagar's achievements, it's also important to acknowledge these complexities.
Absolutely.
And learn from them.
We should.
We can't just assume that progress is linear.
Or inevitable.
And perhaps most importantly, we need to maintain that same spirit of compassion and determination.
That Vidyasagar embodied.
We can't let setbacks or disillusionment deter us from our pursuit of a more just and equitable world.
Well said. His life reminds us that the fight for social justice is ongoing.
It is.
And each generation has a responsibility to carry the torch forward.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the life and legacy of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, what's the key takeaway for our listener? What should they walk away thinking about?
I think the most important takeaway is that each of us has the power to make a difference.
That's powerful.
Vidyasagar's life shows us that even one person armed with knowledge, passion, and determination can spark a movement and create lasting change.
It's a call to action to find the issues that we're passionate about.
And use our voices and actions to make the world a better place.
His story is a powerful reminder that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles, change is possible.
It is.
It starts with a belief in ourselves and in the power of collective action.
Well said.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been a pleasure exploring the incredible life and legacy of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar with you.
And to our listener, we hope you've been inspired by this journey into the past. Now go out there and create your own legacy.
Go make a difference.